Today's video contains a sensitive topic not intended for young ears. Hello everyone, so today for Trending Thursday, I thought I would discuss a topic very relevant today, and it's one of those things that easily trends, and that is the topic of the LGBT agenda within the educational system. Not too long ago, on Twitter, there was a video of a teacher, I believe, that was really excited about how she and along with a couple other teachers are educating, I guess, the young generation of students about LGBT issues.
Class of my own, teaching alongside another queer neurodivergent educator, and we have been rocking our twos class. We've been talking about gender and skin color and consent and empathy and our bodies and autonomy. It's been fabulous. But our teaching team is shifting and a new person is being onboarded, someone with many years of experience. So today at the lunch table, when the topic of gender and genitals came up, one of our students plainly looked up and said, "Well, I'm a girl today, but I know that teacher Co isn't. No, they're NB." And the look on the incoming teacher's face was priceless. She was shocked in a good way, and she just looked around at the two of us and said, "This class is incredible, and I am so impressed."
As a mom of two young children, someone that has a Christian worldview, I couldn't help but think, is this really appropriate? Is this really the correct thing to be happening in our society? And before I share my thoughts and an article that I want to discuss with you today, I want to start off by saying that in this channel, we talk about what it means to follow Jesus, and that includes our lifestyle as well as our beliefs. One of the things that I believe our Christian worldview should impact our lifestyle is how we are to love our neighbor, and that includes people within the LGBT community. Now, loving our neighbor does not necessarily mean affirming everything that they believe in, especially when it goes against our Christian worldview. So part of following Jesus, in other words, is going to include not just our mind, but our whole body. And so that's why, as followers of Jesus, I believe that we are supposed to follow Jesus, including when it comes to the area of human sexuality. It seems that there is kind of a gray area within the Christian community of believers. From what I've heard, it seems that on one end, you have Christians that are shaming people that are struggling with these things, especially people that are wanting to be followers of Jesus, but they have their struggles when it comes to that area. And then there's the other end that they seem to say that it's possible to be a follower of Jesus and at the same time have that kind of lifestyle. And then there's some Christians kind of on that side, but not really, that it almost sounds like they affirm them having those same-sex attractions. They speak well of those people that are dealing with that struggle, in that they say that there are a lot of people that say that they have that, and yet they decide never to get married, and that is like the way that they are attempting to follow Jesus. I am I feel a little more on the center when it comes to that kind of grid that I presented right now. I think that as followers of Jesus, any area of our life that is contrary to what the Bible teaches us. We are supposed to bring forth to God, and we are supposed to be completely open and transparent to God about our struggles and ask for Him to help us. And so I'm not on the other end where, as Christians, we have to shame people because of the things that they are not like meeting the mark that Scripture sets for us. For example, a really relatable topic probably would be that of mental illness, or like people that deal with depression or anxiety. There is a lot of shaming that can happen within the Christian community, and that might make a lot of Christians feel like they can't speak up about their struggles, about having fears and worrisome thoughts and all of that. But as someone that deals with those kind of things, I feel like this is my understanding of what it means to follow Jesus, that every single day that I experience this weakness that might not be someone else's weakness, for whatever reason, I have to ask God to help me, and I have to take the steps necessary to not just stay stuck in that situation, but take steps in the right direction every single day. And I sort of see it in that way when it comes to the things, for example, of same-sex attraction, as I would think of it as anything else, like someone that is dealing with, for example, temptation related to pornography. The same thing applies. That might not be someone's weakness, but for other people, for other Christians, that might be a very significant weakness and something that they feel like they stumble on every single day. So for them, it would be the same steps, being honest with God and having this willingness to take the right steps in the right direction. So when it comes to the same-sex attraction, I see it as following Jesus is going to mean that you're going to acknowledge that that's not what God has designed for men and women, including that attraction. And if that is something that for whatever reason you are struggling with, you need to bring it before the Lord every single day and ask for Him to help you in that area, and to take the steps necessary to, walk towards the right direction every single day. And it's not for us to put shame on you, but it is, I feel like it's putting you in the same level as everyone else. Every other person that is supposed to, crucify the flesh and choose to follow Jesus. So that's what I wanted to say before I talk about this, because I don't want anyone to say that I'm shaming people or I'm being unloving. I just want you to know that I hold everyone in the same standard within my worldview, and as I understand what following Jesus means, the way I understand it.
So to those of you out there who are still working against equal rights, we have a message for you. You think we're sinful? You fight against our rights. You say we all lead lives you can't respect. But you're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Funny, just this once, you're correct. We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You can keep them from disco, warn about San Francisco, make him wear pleated pants, we don't care. We'll convert your children. We'll make them tolerant and fair.
When I saw that video of that teacher that I mentioned earlier, I was wondering, well, is this even appropriate? And then I thought, what are we talking about exactly? That there's this LGBT teaching going on in public schools. And I came across this article by US News, and I'll link it below in the description. This is from August 14, 2019. Something that I want to point out from this in particular is here. It says California became the first state to pass a law requiring schools to teach LGBT history in 2011, followed by Colorado and New Jersey in 2019. This is especially relevant to me because I live in California, and these are decisions that I have had to make regarding my own children. I personally love teaching. I was going to college to become a teacher, but for a few reasons, I did not continue to pursue that career. And so since teaching was something that I really feel passionate about, I decided to homeschool my own children. And something that also influenced my decision in favor of homeschooling was that at the time, like 1 year before my eldest would have started public school, was that the laws related to education were really pushing an LGBT agenda. Even just in like going to a Target, for example, there were changes that were happening. Like now the bathrooms were not just for women anymore. Now they were going to be like any man or woman could be in the same restroom and in the dressing rooms. And so that brought up a lot of concerns for me, especially thinking ahead to like middle school and high school. And you know, elementary is a concern as well, because that's when it seems that children are the most vulnerable. Not everyone is going to respect those rules in the way that perhaps it is intended. Some people will take advantage of those things, and we might be putting people, women, children in situations, or even, you know, men, in situations that are dangerous. It surprises me that they start at kindergarten. This article is specifically talking about a signed legislation for Illinois, the fourth state to require public schools to teach LGBT history. And I quote, "One of the best ways to overcome intolerance is through education and exposure to different people and viewpoints," said bill sponsor State Senator Heather Steens, according to Washington Examiner. The law, which goes into effect in July 2020, requires textbooks purchased with state grant funds to include the roles and contributions of all people protected under the Illinois Human Rights Act. It states that the teaching of history in the United States shall include a study of the roles and contributions of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in the history of this country. 6 states, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Texas, still have laws prohibiting the promotion of homosexuality. These laws, also known as no pro-homo laws, prohibit schools from teaching lesbian, gay, or bisexual people or topics in a positive light in health or sexual education classes. This is why I wanted to talk about this subject. It seems to be pushed onto public schools with the supposed good intention of promoting diversity within American history and as a way to overcome intolerance. But at the same time, it seems like they are pushing for the education of these things. And it seems like they're pushing their worldview onto the students, which is that they see nothing wrong. Actually, they see good in that worldview of that lifestyle. And here's where I feel as a parent I'm concerned, because it's like, who decides which worldview a child ought to hold to? I feel like it's the parents' decision. It's a human rights issue, in my opinion. Parents are the people that brought these human beings into this world, and so parents are responsible for these children until they reach a certain age. And it's almost like the government is putting their hand somewhere where it shouldn't go. It's almost like they want to take the role of a parent. They are doing the parenting. If a parent wants to teach their child that it's wrong for two men to be married, for example, then a child should not be labeled as intolerant because their worldview and their parents' worldview disagrees with the worldview that is being forced onto students, and it's being almost seen as the moral position. It's a lack of freedom of thought and even freedom of speech. Because if a child were to disagree with that, I'm not sure if that would affect their grade, or even if other children would, see them as the intolerant one in the classroom. Tolerance, real tolerance, is disagreeing with someone and still being civil and respectful and loving toward the person while holding on to your own differing opinion. If we all thought the same way, there would not be any tolerance. Another video I've seen that was trending as well of a mother teaching her preschool child through a book. I think it's called the Gay ABCs book. And it has, for example, Q, the page of Q. Q stands for queer. So things like that. And that parent, that mom, feels really proud because she feels that she's raising a woke toddler.
B is for
Bye.
C is for
Coming out.
D is for
Drag.
E is for
Equality.
F is for
Family. Uh-oh. We missed a page.
G is for
Gay.
H is for
Hope.
I is for
Intersex.
J is for
Joy. We missed a page.
K is for
Kiki.
L is for
Lesbian.
M is for
Mountain.
N is for
Non-binary.
O is for
Orientation.
very good. Q is for
I don't know what Q.
that's okay. Q is for queer.
Queer.
R is for
Respect.
S is for
Sachet.
sachet. T is for
Trans.
very good. U is for
Unique.
V is for
Vogue.
do you know how to vogue?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
That was pretty good. Okay, turn the page. W is for
Wonder.
X is for
X.
Y is for
U.
and Z is for
Zams.
zest.
Zest. The end.
The end. What was the name of this book?
The gay BCs.
You like this book?
Yes.
Are you a woke toddler?
Yes.
Can you say, I'm woke?
I'm woke.
That mom wants to raise her child with her worldview and teach him about those issues at such an early age, which he probably doesn't even understand, because a child's mind is not going to be on the same things that, for example, a preteen or an adult's mind is going to be at. So I feel like life is the best educator. So for example, if there's a situation where a child will ask a question about something that they saw or read or heard Well, that is where a parent gets to explain those things to their child and share their own beliefs with their child about it. I feel like it's also another thing if you are talking about, for example, someone that in their own life they did have that lifestyle, for example, but they contributed something to the United States. They were an inventor. I feel like you treat people equally in that you do not talk about their sexuality, because we're not talking about everyone else in history's sexuality. We are not saying, for example, George Washington, who was attracted to women and was married to a woman. That's irrelevant. We are simply talking about the person, and we're talking about his contribution to this country. I don't see a problem with talking about someone that had a lifestyle that I may disagree with, and just simply talking about the person, their contribution, without talking about their sexuality or their lifestyle. And that's where I feel that our laws that are promoting this in our public schools are going too far. And I feel like the only way that we can really combat this is, at the end of the day, electing people that are not going to be pushing things forcefully into our public schools. Another thing is that there should be careful thoughtfulness about when we begin to talk to our children about sexuality. It's a gradual thing that has to happen. For example, in the beginning, I feel it's very appropriate to teach them about, their body and boundaries to keep them safe from people that would take advantage of their innocence. So that's something that I feel a parent should be responsible for teaching also in schools. But again, it can only go so far, like teaching children to respect, everyone, and to keep their hands to themselves, that, their body is just for them. There are some situations that happen at home where children are not safe at home, but hopefully there's a structure in schools where they can receive help from counselors and go from there. And then there's the whole attraction thing that does happen already in elementary. I remember in elementary we were having already discussions about who's a boyfriend and a girlfriend in the classroom. And so that is also a conversation I feel that parents should have with their kids, especially sharing their own rules, what they feel comfortable, the rules should be about that in their own home. That topic of same-sex attraction is something completely unnecessary, I think, because it's like introducing something to kids that might not have even needed to hear that conversation yet. Like I said, if there was a situation where a child asks about maybe something that they're feeling, something that they saw, maybe they had an experience that introduced that to them, those are conversations that have to happen in that moment. But for someone that doesn't need to know about what other people are choosing as their lifestyle, it's introducing sexuality in the wrong time developmentally, first of all. And secondly, it might be placing things in a child's mind that is going to actually cause more problems than just like an educational effect. I disagree, but if a child is feeling certain things, they want to do certain things, then because of how I feel I have rights as a parent, I feel that would be the decisions that child's parents should have. And then you go into like thinking about, well, what about laws? Because I feel like a lot of laws violate those parenting rights that we should have, having to do with abortion, that young ladies are able to go into clinics and do that without their parents, which are the more mature, the adults in that family that could help guide their daughter. I mean, I feel like laws like that, like those, need to just be eradicated. And also, for example, like, what is it called, transitioning medications and procedures and all of that, I feel like that also violates often parental rights. I've heard of a case where the dad disagreed and the mom wanted to go ahead and do this with their child, and the dad had no say in the law process. So I definitely would feel that it's inappropriate for anyone to start to talk about sexual topics with a kindergartner, a first grader, a second grader. And even I've heard from a mom friend that even, I think it was junior high or high school, that her son had come home really disturbed by the things that were taught in sex education related to this LGBT. And the parent was surprised that they were so graphic about how things happen in certain relationships. They didn't expect that the school was going to take it that far. So I don't know why school became this sexual education place. I feel like there's a lot of biology that we can teach without necessarily having to have the sex talk in school, especially when it comes to LGBT issues. And when you think about it, they're so young. They do not need to be learning certain things. I feel like we should be promoting, abstinence instead for such young people. And that's why you see a lot of issues with abortions. And it's almost like this sex education supposedly wants to prevent a lot of pregnancies, but I feel like it actually is promoting this sexual lifestyle. It's not teaching that it's wrong. It's teaching it's all right, you can do this, and use protection, for example. That's my opinion. That's based off of my Christian worldview. Maybe another Christian would disagree with me. Maybe they're all in favor of, sex education and all of that. But I am more of the thought that it's our role as parents, what our kids do, first of all, what our children do here in our home, how we run our home is our decision. And what they do, where their bodies are at 9 p.m. or whatever the curfew time is. And the same should be the case about what our children's or our, I don't know how you would say children when it comes to our teenagers. Yeah. What our teenagers' bodies are doing as well. Those are the rules. And so I know it's one of those things where teenagers can rebel and do whatever, but still that I feel like that is a parent's right to teach their worldview. And if there is a situation where the teenager, for example, disagrees and is now struggling and has a different perspective or worldview when it comes to human sexuality, then again that is up for the parents to talk through those things and see what steps they need to take to help their child. I feel that a lot of people will be considering homeschooling more in the future the more they push the LGBT agenda in public schools and is labeling another worldview as intolerant. It's like they don't want, for example, the Christian worldview being taught. They want the separation of religion and state, but at the same time, they have injected their worldview to the state, and they are pushing their own worldview, and while at the same time yelling that religion should be separate from the state. Those are my thoughts on this. If you have any opinions you would like us to read about, leave them in the comments section, and I would be happy to read those. And if you would like for this topic to continue in a future video, let me know. Leave some questions there and we'll see if we can get that going. I'll talk to you on the next video. Bye.